and there was music in my house. And one of my earliest memories is we had this great collection of albums of the great orchestral war horses, like Carnival of the Animals and the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Hall of the Mountain King. My mother would be cleaning the kitchen, and all the chairs would be out in the living room, and I'd put all my animals and stuff and act out the music. And then there was a piano in the basement. There was a good piano upstairs and this really bad upright piano in the basement. And I started writing storms, like just making up these events. I think probably influenced by my work with the stuffed animals in the chairs. I went to the next step. And then I started, I had a piano teacher that had us color the notes, different colors. And I started writing big fat note music. And then I wrote musicals. And I made the neighbor kids perform in them, and we charged money. And so that's, it was sort of play for me. It's like how I entertained myself. And then in high school, I took music theory, and I thought, oh, there's something really beyond just playing. And that kind of led me to composing more. And yeah, that's how I started.
But how did you know that you were meant to do this? How did you decide, okay, I'm going to compose, and that's what I am, a composer?
I think that the music theory class, and then like just starting to see how music worked, it just sunk into my body that this was something that's just more, it's fun, and it's also endlessly mysterious and interesting. And so that sort of drew me in. And when I went to college and started, I found all these I was the composer in the theater department, because the conservatory and the theater are in the same building, and the two departments did not talk to each other. And I walked over to the other side and started writing music for the plays. Then I became the go-to person. And that allowed me to write in all kinds of different styles, different reasons, and be quick on your feet kind of thing. So yeah, it's just sort of, I was led by circumstances.
Well, I'm so glad the circumstances happened. Beata, can you, I gave a little bit of the story, I'm sorry, but now.
That's okay. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I can stay maybe like a few minutes past 11:30, but I'm going to stay as long as I can. Just briefly, I was a piano major and I didn't compose a single note. I didn't have teachers like you all who encouraged improvisation. And so the first composition I wrote was for a theory class at Juilliard, where I had to write a fugue. And I just remember getting a really strong response from people, and they said, you should play that for your jury. And that just kind of gave me a little bit of a encouragement. And then at the end of Juilliard, I took a break and I met a choreographer, a dancer, and he's like, can you write some music for me? I'm like, sure. I hadn't done that before. And so we started collaborating. And then, it was just very enjoyable. I started doing more, and I started calling myself a composer. So I feel like everyone should compose, whether or not you want to call yourself a composer. I think that's just part of being an artist. And so I'm just grateful to have, found my way through composition. And I'm grateful to now also have the discipline to have, piano to performance as well. And I will pass it to Chinnery, I think, is next.
What was the original question?
So the question is, how did you start composing, and when did you realize that this was what you were meant to do?
Oh, I met my mentor, the late Servant Jung, in the mid-'60s when I stayed at the Y. And I met him at the concert hall, and I ended up, I took a private lesson with him for a few years or so. And with the craft and the guidance of Joe led me to believe that I was able to compose music. That was my Opus 1, maybe 1965 or 66.
Shall I go next? You kind of told my story a little bit. My mom enrolled me in a very serious rhythmic gymnastics school in Eastern Europe when I was 3 years old. They were grooming us for the Olympics eventually. And I think my recollection is we went two or three times a week for 2 or 3 hours, which is pretty intense stuff for 3-year-olds. And I do remember we were not allowed to take water breaks because you were training. But there was, like I said, a little old lady playing this gorgeous music at the piano for all of our classes, and I just fell in love. And when I was not in class, sitting, trying to sit under the piano or getting close to the music, I could hear music in my head that she had never played. So that's what started me, that all just these sounds and sonorities and melodies that were just coming at me. And when I was 6 years old, I made my parents give me permission to audition for a specialized music school that had been founded by Zoltan Kodály. So that was my route to it. They wouldn't let me take piano lessons or get an instrument till I was 8. So I didn't actually start writing music till I was 8 years old. It was a long 5 years from 3 to 8, but I held steady. I was not going to become a doctor or an economist like my parents really wanted me to be.